Hi everyone. This devlog, I focused on the animation system. This came with two parts. First, the server that can interpret the inputs of the clients and which animations they should be running, and the client that can run the animations and blend between the animation changes. I'll explain a bit how I did that, as I could not really find much online about it, so I just did what felt most intuitive. We can see the transitions between the animations are pretty smooth, and I did not update the animations to blend better. These are the same animations from, I think, the second devlog. While working on this, I did have a few problems. I seem to have imploded my model. I got it working a bit better, but as you can see, when we transition from one animation to the next, the stage between, which is the blending stage, is causing issues. However, I got that fixed eventually. So ultimately, I needed to get the animation information over to the clients. And to do that, what I did was I updated the state fiddler to include this thing called the machine. And what this is just a simple finite state machine, nothing fancy, but it handles the different states of the player. And those states themselves include the animation updates. So we can give a bit of an example here. So imagine we have a player that gives us some input and they're currently in the idle state. So the machine will run via the state fiddler and it will grab that player's idle state and it will attempt to run it, which you'll see here. So the states themselves know how to transition to other states, which I thought was kind of clean for now, but I think this might get a little bit crazy in the future once we have sort of hybrid states, for example, running and swinging a sword or something like this. So maybe I'll have to change it in the future. But so let's say that the input actually has sort of moved back, right? So they're stepping backwards. So then we will return back that the state has changed to running, and then the machine will then run that next state immediately. So it won't wait for the next input cycle. So then if we go to running, we can see that, so the input wouldn't have changed. So we shouldn't transfer it to the torquing state or back to idle. And anyways, it will then know how to update the position and then it will set the animation type for running. So this will then be sent off to the client to be able to update their animation. So far for the server, I like this design. It's just a simple finite state machine. However, in the past I've seen code bases where they don't use state machines or even enums. They just use flags for things. So imagine if we have a flag for is idle, is walking, is running, is twerking, those sort of things. But then you'll have combinations where it's is not idle and is not walking, and that applies running. But every time you add another state, it ends up breaking a bunch of other conditions. And this becomes an absolute headache. So the finite state machine, I don't know, it's pretty clean, I would say, but there are some obvious limitations to it. So for the client side, I won't show the code because it's not super interesting, but I can sort of scribble out what I did and what made sense to me. So imagine we're drawing a character because we want to animate it. And we've got the character. And imagine he's got just a thick neck. So we'll call that N. So let's say we have the idle animation. So this idle animation will have some keyframes. And what those keyframes look like, really, if we just look at one of the properties, which will be translation, it looks something like this. So we have T0, let's say T1, and you understand. So these would be times in seconds, and these would be the, in this case, translations. There's also rotations and scale, but it's just simpler to focus on one. So we have these two times, and let's say we have the next animation. So the software currently is running this animation. The next animation, let's say it's the run. So it also has some keyframes. In this case, we only care about the first one, and we'll put TR0. Okay, so imagine we are looking at, I don't know, some time of 0.08. So this would be sort of the animation time. So what we'll do is, and this is what we were doing originally before we had blending, which is we'll basically interpolate like this. That should be an I. So we'll take T0, T1, and 0.08. And because this is translation, we'll do interpolation, but rotation is not interpolation. I actually slurp it. So now we are between animations. So we actually want to take this value here and we want to take TR0, which is the translation at the keyframe of 0. And then we want to take some, I'll just put BF for blend factor. This is something that I increase per frame. and then we want to interpolate this entire thing. This is basically how I blend between keyframes for animations. So they're both working with this bone and the samplings and getting the values and interpolating them. And it seems to work okay. I'm sure there's other ways to do this and probably ways that make more sense or are more flexible, but for now this seems to work. And in the future, if I need something else, then yeah, I'll have to figure it out. So for the next chunk of work, I think I want to work on an MPC. Since I have animations coming over the network now, I think I'll be able to control an MPC with the server and have it walk around and whatnot. There won't be any interactions yet because I haven't added any physics for collision detection or any real gameplay mechanics, but I feel like once I have an NPC, trying to hurt it and kill it may be the next step. Anyways, I hope this was helpful. Thank you for watching. Take care.